Thank you all for coming out tonight to help celebrate a piece of local history, the Hatfield Hellion. My name is Meg Baker, and I'm the curator of the Hatfield Historical Museum. I'd like to thank the Hatfield Historical Society Board for their steady support. You may now wave if you wish, or not, thank you. And thanks to all of the volunteers who make events like this happen. And lastly, thanks to all of you for coming out this evening. If you enjoyed tonight's program, please follow the Hatfield Historical Museum on Facebook. Leave your email at the table in the back so we can alert you of future programs, and you're all invited to join the Hatfield Historical Society. Membership forms are on the same table beside the donations basket and the raffle tickets. Let's see. So tonight, we're very pleased to have with us a panel of people who know all about the Hatfield Hellion. George Zagrodnik, Richie Korza, two guys who were there at the very start. Louise Slish, whose older brother George Rogalewski, also called Schnaub, is that correct? Yep. Was right there with George and Richie. And Jeff Zagrodnik, who has a pretty strong family connection, I'd say. Yeah, pretty much. Can I get a show of hands? Who else in the audience has either ridden on the truck or had a family member who rode on the truck? Yeah, look at that. That's nice. That's great. Okay, so at the end, I hope we get to hear more of your stories in the Q&A at the end, but now we're just going to ask the four of you to go with this. All right, folks. I do have a list of questions to ask you. I also have the slideshow and some newspaper quotes that I'll read out because they're hard for the folks to read on the screen. First, I want to give a little bit of background for anybody in the room who is just here because they saw something happening and don't actually know much about it. So my newspaper sources say that in 1970, on the eve of Hatfield's 300th anniversary, Henry Skrupski, called Chickup, convinced his boss and friend George here that an old Ford pickup truck was too beat to use anymore, so why not see what they could do with it? So Chickup, Schnaub, George, Richie, and Bob Slish chopped it up, shortened it, added counterweights to make it rise up, added a three-way braking system to make it spin, made exhaust pipes out of rain gutters, painted it with spare paint, and rode that truck straight into Pioneer Valley history. So tonight, we celebrate the men and behind the machine. And we want to hear your stories, starting with who came up with the name for the Hellion, and did it originally refer to the truck or to the crew? Take it away, George.
Can you hear me? I believe it was probably a combination of both. Probably more so the crew than the truck itself. And originally you could see somebody put orange peel on the front. That was one of in its building days, it was on the front bumper, you know. But eventually, over a period of, we built it in, I believe it was 3 or 4 days, Richie? We started on a Thursday and finished it Sunday morning, the day of the parade. The paint was still wet. Richie got done painting it about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we had a guy that lived on Dwight Street by the name of Bob O'Neill. He did the lettering on it, and all he got done for lettering, Hatfield Hellion was not on it at that time. What he had done was just the names of the guys on the side of the cowl and a couple other things, and that was it for that morning of the parade. Like I say, the paint was still tacky. We had to park it out in the sun for a while. It's strange that the way it all happened, because if I remember right, we were at a place called Aggie's. And Chickup always talked about the Leaping Lena. He says, someday we got to build one. Someday we got to build one. Well, they were always out of Model A's. There was none out of anything this new. This, by the way, is a 64, not a 63. 54. Not a 53. So what can we use, you know? And so we looked out in the field by the garage, because he worked for me at the time. And this pickup was standing there, and my father hadn't used it for a couple of years anyways. We told him it was shot. And it was in tough shape anyways, but the motor ran good. So we started, and it wasn't a half an hour, and I believe Richie Corza had the roof cut off of it. And I said, oh boy, this is going to be something, you know. And I had to keep this out of the eyesight of my father. We didn't want him to see it, so we'd work on it till 1 or 2 in the morning and hide it so that he wouldn't see it. We'd put it in the spray booth or something and shut the doors so he didn't see it. And we got by that way while we were building it, but that's about what happened. And as far as the name Hatfield Hellions, I think it's just a combination of people came up with that, and it stuck, and we had O'Neill painted on there. And that's what it is to this day.
Richie, can you add a little bit about deciding to cut the roof off?
It's on.
Well, they all wanted a design. Says, well, cut the roof off, weld the door shut so it doesn't open up. And that's what we did, and that's how it is today.
Jeff, can I ask you the next question? Sure. So how did you all get together to do this? Like the first crew, but how did your crew get together to do this?
Well, first of all, Richie cut the roof off because he doesn't like washing windows. I must say, I don't particularly care for it either, you know. Luckily, I have somebody that does a really good job on them. I don't know where she is. She's taking pictures somewhere. But there is one more person that should be up here, because for the last 28 years or whatever, including just the other night, Donald Vollinger. So we got to commandeer a chair over here. And yeah, he's a little shy. He doesn't like the spotlight, but here, we're gonna get him a chair and bring him up here. All right. Now, you didn't think I was going to let you get away that easy. He also liked playing with toys, so he made that toy, and, you know, it's a scaled model. I don't know if anybody's seen it.
So, Louise, this is your brother, George, and he was a key player in making the Hellion. Is there anything particular that stands out in your memory that took place in this time?
I actually have no memory to contribute as to what happened in those 3 days, because I was at Cooley Dick recuperating from appendicitis. So I came home the night before the parade, and I guess there were inklings that something was going to happen. Those of you who weren't around then, it was incredible that the little town of Hatfield was going to get the mummers to come, and they were the final act, and they were supposed to be the biggest act. But I don't ever hear anybody mention them when they talk about the parades. All they talk about is the Hellions. And they were a bunch of Hellions, but they had a great time, and they were brilliant mechanics and painters and whatever else is involved in making that thing work and still work today.
From what I understand, Chickup came up with one of the ideas to bring it to you, George. You've talked a little bit about how that process happened, but where did the work take place? I mean, you mentioned Aggie's?
Yes, the
See,
engineering took place.
that's what you get from someone who didn't grow up in Hatfield.
There was a lot of engineering done there, I guess, that's for sure. But I believe that's where it originally started. Should we build this, and will we build it? And we decided right away, yeah, we're going to build it. And we just, put the 5 guys together. Of course, Bob Salish worked for me, Chickup worked for me, and he worked for my father also before that. And a lot of people in town didn't know Chickup because everybody, that's the only name he ever had in town as far as I know. His real name was Henry, but everybody called him Chickup, and a lot of people did not know who he was. And he was well known for many things. He had a lot to do with the fire truck and the fireman's muster when they were running musters. That was before this. But he was an innovator, had some good ideas. He could come up with some great ideas, how to do this and how to do that and how to do it differently and how to make it easier and so forth. And just in the building of this vehicle, if you look close at it, there wasn't much room to play with as far as the wheelbase because we didn't want to interfere with the cab. We got it all built and took it out and tried it in the driveway, and it didn't work. Mainly because we didn't have enough weight in the back. And luckily I was a dealer for construction equipment, and I had a counterweight off of a dozer. And we put the 1,200-pound counterweight in the back of the bed, and that did the trick. I mean, but we got through with the Hatfield Parade, and the differential housing was bent really bad. It's a miracle it made it through the parade. So we had to change the differential housing. I found one at Richie Stevens, who's a past businessman in town. He died several years ago, and he had a 49 Chevrolet 1-ton differential, and that's what we put in there. And we put a strut underneath it to strengthen it and make sure it wouldn't bend like the other one did. And then we found out it was too fast. Well, it had a 3-speed transmission in it, so we took the 3-speed transmission out and we put a 4-speed in out of a bus, one of my father's buses. But he didn't use that anymore either. And that's the way it kind of went, It kept adding on and doing different things and getting it to where it is today. We've added little by little, but as far as the basic concept of it, it stayed the same.
Aggie's was where they invented it, but where did they build? Was it your house?
It was built in my garage, which is where Helena is today.
So off of Elm Street, where Helena is currently, George had a garage there, a business. And it was built out at the end of that where Helena currently is.
So on the parade routes, where did you keep extra gas, and how did you make the smoke and the other accessories? All right, Donnie's got a big grin.
I'm passing it down.
Under the toilet seat. It has a full-blown toilet on it with a working seat, and all the accessories stay underneath that. Out of sight, covert, and that's what they feed the stack with.
The smoke, I don't know if you people are going to like this or not, but the smoke came from our National Guard. Buffer Hurley was in charge at the time, and I wasn't in the Guards, but Richie was, and Schnabby, and some of the other guys were, and it came from the National Guard by the case. And so I guess you could say we stole it.
That's it. Enough.
Left over that?
Jeff, would you care to comment on where you currently get the smoke and for the explosions and things?
No recollection. Any wrongdoing.
I plead the fifth. I will tell you one thing. You asked where the accessories were changed, and there is a individual here in the room, Mr. Fitch. Stand up. Actually, hold your hand up. He had a better idea one day down in Northampton, and, well, not the dog. I was talking about the Munchkin box. One of the accessories ended up in the Munchkin box, and the Munchkin box, one of the guys in the back seat decided to launch it off the back. The cop in the cruiser behind was not amused.
There were donut holes all over the windshield.
Always use the toilet.
So, did it ever break down? And if, like, in a parade? And if so, what did you do? It never broke down during a parade.
If the truth won't set you free, then lie.
Heard, okay.
We've had some mishaps and played it off. We decided we like your party. We'll hang out here for a little bit.
Bud Corzar, can you stand up, come forward? He says, hey, do you want me to get off and help push? Just getting off would be help.
So that's a perfect segue, Richie, into my other question here, which is about the weight distribution and why it matters so much. For those of you who built it at first, why? I mean, I understand the physics of it, but there's got to be more to it. Not really.
You need large Americans in the back.
Well, to make it stand up and stay there, you need a weight ratio. And is this on?
Yep,
Yeah.
you're good.
And once you pick it up, the guy on the right side, he had the rear brakes in his hands, and he steered it like a bulldozer. That's what made it spin around.
From the back.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
Pass.
passenger seat. Yeah.
We just need a couple fat guys, really.
I understand that Donnie Sadowski was actually from Whately, is that right? He's here. Oh, he's here. South Deerfield. Well, thank you so much. I didn't get a picture of you in your younger days. I tried.
You look the same.
Oh, well, okay. Good enough. All right. Where are we? So, a lot of pictures were taken in 1970 for sure. But one of the things that happened is that we put out a call, as you may have seen in various ways, to have people send in pictures. And so this came in from Brian Spear, who does not live in Hatfield, but he saw a poster for this event and mailed in this photo saying, here's a photo taken by my grandmother at the Southwick, Massachusetts 200th anniversary parade in 1970. I was at the post office in Hatfield and noticed the event you are having and remembered I had this shot. So this, for me, was really a nice evidence of how memorable this was and how important it was, even from the very get-go.
Names on the door.
Yeah, that does help.
And you guys got arrested.
Wait, what? Does anybody want to tell that story? Oh, Louise wants the mic. All right, Louise, there you go.
I can't tell the story, but George can. He's told it to me before.
Why can't we leave well on the floor? I don't know. Somehow we ended up in front of the Southwick Inn after the parade. And there was a bunch of younger gals there, and they were looking our rig all over and everything, asking questions and so forth. And along came a bunch of guys, a little bit older than them, wise guys, and they started causing problems with the girls and one thing led to another, and one fist was thrown, another was thrown, and in the end, Schnabby and I ended up in jail for 15 minutes or so, and somebody came along and got us out. But, it was just a deal of wise guys raising hell with the girls. And so we thought we'd, help these girls out. And it was nothing on our intentions of, they were younger, way far younger than we were, But it was just a shame. We had to go to a parade and see something like that. And yet I guess today it happens all the time, But that's what happened.
So you were in very high demand, and as the Hellion was invited to participate in many parades and events, was it always, Louise, you had mentioned, was it always the last to appear, or save the best for last?
No, sometimes we got near the front or in the middle, and we try to sneak back through and come through the parade route again at the end. And where was it, Northfield, they threw us out? Second time through, they threw us out of parade, told us to go home.
There's tons of articles, little clips about this, because it shows up everywhere and always makes the news. So this is Hatfield's a hit. Green smoke was dispensed in clouds from a vehicle. The word is used lightly, since the nature of the Hatfield Hellion orange peel almost defies description. A smash hit with youngsters and oldsters alike, it moved down the line, circling on the rear wheels, performing wheelies while belching smoke, screeching and amazing spectators who expected to see the 6 men passengers fall off at any time. So here's my questions to you, and you gave me the perfect entry with the police there. Was safety ever a concern? Jeff has an answer.
Safety's the most important thing, and we always made sure to tell the guys, don't let that cooler tip over.
So what? Oh, wait. Louise has a... Go, Donnie. Go, Donnie.
Amherst.
It was, I don't know, it was quite a few years ago, but the town of Amherst decided that they didn't want to see the American flags flown when they had that battle going on over there. So at that time, there was a guy by the name of Dick Bardwell, and I knew his son. I never met him before, and he calls up. They used to run a 4th of July parade, and he's like, we want you to come over. I'm like, Dick, I don't know. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I said, we really don't have any interest in going somewhere where they don't want to fly the flag. He's like, well, that's why I'm calling. We want you guys over here. So I'm like, okay, we're on the same page. So he arranged some sponsorship, and he goes, is there anything else? I says, yeah. I says, we want to run first. He goes, first? I says, yeah. He says, well, why do you want to run first? I says, who doesn't want to be first? So he says, no problem, you're running first. So we go over in the morning, and Donnie and I go down and check into the booth, and we're staged up by Amherst College on the hill. And they had a protest that morning because they didn't want the 4th of July parade to kick off. So really wasn't our fault, you know what I mean? They held us up for like 40 minutes, for this parade, and, I told you how we felt about the cooler. So we get ready, and we're hanging around, and finally they let them do their protest and demonstration, and they're like, okay, they round up the cops, they're like, you guys got to get out of here, we're having this parade, blah, blah, blah. And he says, all right, you can take off. Okay. We did. Somebody put the cooler in backwards, so the cooler tipped over. The beer and the vodka and the ice start rolling out the back of the truck.
All over the street.
He and I look at one another, we're like, this is not good.
The crowd thinks it's part of the show.
The crowd is going wild, and we're like, this is not good.
It's like
And then
throwing-
when it got good, the Amherst Police Department were down on their hands and knees collecting the beers and the ice and the vodka and putting it back in our cooler. And I'm like, this is awesome.
I look back and he's got a handful of ice on the road. And he's like, you're going to need to keep the beer cold. I'm like, I looked at him like, you're not going to believe what's going on back there. They were very good. They were good to us.
So
Yeah, we had fun there.
But are there seatbelts? So the Hatfield Hellion had the funniest entry in the Northfield's 300th Tercentenary Parade. It roared and squealed down Main Street, riding on 2 rear tires, its smokestack belching yellow sulfur smoke with each new explosion. You do see a lot of the same sort of descriptions, which is, fine. Explosions and squealing. But this one I think is particularly interesting. The Polski Warriots appeared to be drinking something other than soft drinks and were possibly the most popular unit in the entire parade. They were the only group to drive the parade route twice. So here's where I have a question. I have a hint. I've heard a hint about Bootsy Prue and something he said after the end of one of the early parades. Who knows that story?
I don't know.
Bootsy Prue and something at the end of the parade?
want us in the parade, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, Gene Prue was the chairman of the Hatfield 300th, and he drove down to the garage the morning of the parade, and he didn't see the vehicle. The vehicle was in the garage. But he said, I don't know what you got, and I don't know what you're going to do. But he says, just behave. and he had a way of being stern. Bootsy was a real good guy, but he says, please, guys, behave and don't mess this up. And we said, don't worry, we won't. And he left, and that was it. The next time he saw it was when it was in the parade. Another point that I do want to bring up, though, is whenever we did go to a parade anywhere, we'd always request that we not be anywhere near horses or a band. Horses were a problem anywhere around us. We were a problem for them, and so we didn't want to be near horses or any kind of livestock for that matter. And bands were another, because the bands were there to do their thing, and we were there to do our thing, and we weren't probably the best music of all, but we put a good show on. And when we built this, there's nobody in our group that even had the wildest dream that this would be as popular as it was. We thought Hatfield's parade, we go through the parade and we're all done and that's it. It went on, and every time we had to go to another parade, we were starting to get a little older, and I wasn't married at the time, but eventually I was married, and my wife says, maybe you ought to park this in the barn for a while. And so we did. We finally did. We rather than wear it out and have everybody get sick of it, we did. We parked it. And it was sat in the barn, I don't know how many years, Jeff. We figured it out. You guys were the first ones to go out with it. But it was quite a while it sat in the barn. And so when it did come out, it was like something new again.
I think this might have been the next time it came out. It was 95. Yeah. So I have a great quote here. That is from Chickup. It says, the young boys took it out and restored the brakes and tinkered with the engine, says Chickup, says Scrupsy, who's glad the truck is still on the road. So Jeff, how old were you at this time? You must have been...
I was 18.
You were 18. So, okay. So when did you know you wanted to be on the truck?
8 months.
So since you were a little kid.
Oh yeah, it was always a thing. I remember when I was a kid, my brother and I would go to parades. My mother'd be like, "We got to go to the parade. We're gonna." Oh, all right. And we would go, and our friends would go with us and stuff. And I mean, back in them days, the parades were always in the summer, and I kind of laugh. I mean, we grew up as kids. I mean, my mother had a 71 Super B Charger, and we'd ride around in that thing and go to these parades. And I don't know, we never knew what a minivan was.
So this is my guess as what it might have looked like before. It's one of those things, George, you just mentioned that you never knew that it was going to turn into what it's become. And it's become a phenomenon. But when you're at the beginning of a phenomenon and you don't know it, you don't tend to take pictures in the process. So how close is this? Sort of close?
Except for the bed.
Okay.
The bed is a factory bed, and this had a wooden body, stake body on it from day one. My father bought them without factory beds and put stake beds on them. And this is that's a 53, 1 year older than ours. Ours is a 54. You can tell by the grill. But other than for that, it's pretty close. That's a heavier model. That's like a 350. That's a 1 ton, I believe, whereas ours is a half ton. But basically, it's pretty close.
What was the hardest part of modifying the truck, and had any of you ever done anything like this before? Richie, you want to start with that?
Well, I guess the hardest thing was moving the rear end and getting it secure so it would stay there. And then you kept tinkering with it until we got it right.
Yeah, that was tough. Drive shaft was a tough part too, because it's so very short and it's at a very steep angle, which you don't want to run them at. But we did the best we could to keep it as straight as possible. And you don't want to drive too far with it, too fast, because it won't last, But that was probably the toughest part, was the drive shaft, I would say. Then we had problems with the electrical. It had a 6-volt system, so we had to change it to a 12, and we had to go from a generator to an alternator to generate enough power. We had to put an electric fuel pump on it. We had, I think I mentioned the transmission. We had to change from a 3-speed to a 4-speed so it would go slow enough. Trying to think what else there might have been. But there was all these little things that came up. We always, I can't remember ever going down in a parade. Our biggest fear was, and it never ever happened, was we'd get a flat tire on the back. Oh man, we says, what are we gonna do if we ever get a flat tire in the back, So we had a jack behind the seat, and we had a lug wrench behind the seat, and we had a spare tire up under the bed somewhere. It would have been a little bit of a project to change, but we never ever had to. We were lucky. We never changed one.
Don't worry, you wouldn't have.
It wasn't only in parades, there were other things as well. Another 3 things. Thank you, Don, for this postcard. Appreciate that. So here we're coming up into, so I don't know what this is, this Hobart Hoedowns. Does anybody want to say anything about that, or should we just let that one pass? When Jeff chuckles like that, I don't know you well, but I've gotten a hand quick. All right, I'm going to go back because they're debating who's going to tell this story. All right, Hobart Hoedown. So I lived in Amherst in the 90s, so I know a little. No. But I've heard stories. So I'd love to hear the real story. There you go.
back when UMass was like fun, like people would want to go there because it was fun. It's not so fun anymore, believe me. That banner was made and hung up on a porch here in town of a family that happened to own one side of Hobart Lane. And they were known every year. I believe it was, there was a holiday or something right around then.
We went there for the 4th,
We went there for the 4th, but
that was on the side of the Lena.
that was on the side of the Hellion. We ran through town and we came back and we hung it on their front porch.
We went to Ronnie and Shelley's wedding because we also do weddings and bar mitzvahs.
That's right. But they owned like one side of the rental units on Hobart Lane, and the other people, owned the other side, and it got pretty wild over there, and there was a lot of damage. So we kind of tacked it up on their front porch, as you can see, and I believe that photo might have been sent to them. They didn't find much humor in it.
When we left Main Street and went down through all the fraternities where the fraternities were, the kids on the porches were cheering when they saw that.
So this is the Bernie Fitch picture that I have. Now we're coming up in the 90s, yeah. So I love this because I had the article that has the quote in it, and then Don sent me this photo, which is of that event. So I think that's pretty cool. A lot of noise under that underpass at TJ's, declared Donald Vollinger, the pilot. My ears are still ringing, said Bernie Fitch, one of the self-styled Hatfield Hellions. I bet you did. I bet you did. Yep. So now we're coming up into the 2000s, and James Labby was at the Hatfield Antique Auto Show, and it says, after all these years, I finally realized the kind of fun these guys have been having. So, okay, be honest. How much fun is it? All fun? Yeah? Nothing bad about it, says Richie. Well, I mean,
We took Jimmy in front of the elementary school where there was that picture taken, the Breer Elementary. We took Jimmy for a ride that day. So, yeah, that was the first time I think he was on it. And, yeah, it's back there. But he had done a lot for this town. It's like, you got to come to this car show. So we were at a car show, and he was there. And I don't think he was in that picture, but we took a bunch of them, and Jimmy went for a ride with us, and it was a good time.
That's very kind of you. Yeah. So now I want to know, here's the details that we have also from that auto show. And a lot of them we've covered already. And I noticed now from listening to you that some of these are not correct. That, like Frank Godek Sr. says, you tore it apart and put it together overnight. But Richie, I heard you say it took about 3 days. Thursday night through Sunday morning? Yeah. Part of local history, yes. Jeff, you're quoted here as having a lot of different names that you knew about, but that the name was never official. Would you care to affirm or deny that remark?
That might go at a generational gap. It depends who you talk to. Everybody seems to call it something else, my father refers to it as the leapy bug, I don't know if the Kilbowitzes are here. Are they here? Yep. Back row. They call it Leapin' Lena, other people call it orange peel. I don't know. Everybody just picks something and calls it what it is. That's all.
When it didn't start the other night, what did you call it?
There are children in the audience, Jeff. I'd like to remind you there are minors present.
Well, it's like anything, any vehicle. I name my vehicles, and typically they have female names, but you know. Let's put it this way. It's the only Ford that's in the garage. And there won't be another one.
No wonder you called me.
So here, as Don mentioned, sometimes they do weddings too. So how did the Hellion wind up as the going away vehicle for this wedding?
George, you may want to take this one.
Do you want to take this? One of you two.
You go.
Well, my cousin Shelley was getting married, and, you know, is she here?
She sent in these photos, so she knows we're here tonight looking at them.
Well, both her and Ronnie, I don't remember. We had just gotten back from something.
Well, it was that where we had the Hobart Hoedown. It was all the same weekend.
Okay.
4th of July.
And they both requested us to go to this wedding. My father was not in favor of it, like at all. He went through extreme measures to make sure it didn't show up. He hid the key. He never seized the smokestacks. He, parked stuff in front of it. We got it out anyways. So we actually drove it through the meadows across the Little Red Bridge. Everybody remember that? I miss it. And brought it in for the wedding. There was probably a little more harsh language used about that thing showing up than the other night when it didn't want to start. Let's just leave it at that. But
Ronnie and Shelley couldn't thank us more.
they couldn't thank us enough. It was their request, and they didn't think it was going to be there. And yeah, it was a pretty good time. Richie was there too, right? Yeah, but yeah. See, he's still a little pissed off about it.
So in 2005, Robert Flynn III had an Eagle Scout project. It was the Hometown Heroes Parade. And in that parade, they honored 5 people selected for their service to Hatfield: Mary Lou Cutter, William Englehart Sr., Rita Prue, John Rankin, and Lieutenant Gregory Weeks. And the Hellion was there. And I noticed when I was looking at the photos that they have this really nice sign for our favorite Hatfield hero, George Rogaleski. I just thought that's really cool, y'all. That was really nice.
The one cool thing about that parade is started out, as you can see in those pictures out there, very, very nice. It was a great day. And then the rain came pouring in, as you can see in that photo in the Gazette. And people just stayed. They just stayed. And they were just all about it. The rain's pouring down. People never left their seats. They never left their blankets watching the parade. It was a good deal. Yeah, it was a Hatfield spirit thing.
Can you raise your hand if you were at that parade? 2005 Hatfield Heroes. Some people in the room. The wacky homegrown Hatfield Hellion truck led things off, spinning around the street and popping wheelies. It carries a sign addressed to Flynn that read, "Congrats, Bobby, get her done." Now we're at the Amherst 4th of July parade in 2005. Yeah, lots of flags. So this is 2009 Hadley's 350th, and I really like this sequence of photos because it shows that it can get up and spin around. Oh. Yeah, a little bit, I think.
We actually made T-shirts for that event. I think somebody has one on in here. Oh. I found it. All in good fun.
There you go.
I'm going to tell them what it says.
Oh, yeah, okay. Servicing Hadley's women for 350 years. All right.
I was just giving that anything to do with that.
So I think that this picture, correct me if I'm wrong, we've got Jeff Zagrodnik, Don Vollinger, Bobby Vollinger, Frank Godek Sr., Eddie Dysek, Jim Labby, and then we think that's Joe LaPearl with the suspenders? Dave. Okay, Dave Hadler. And then is Matt Shippey, we think maybe? And do we know the name? We don't know the name of the woman on the left. Does anybody have that? Okay. Yeah, the woman with the sunglasses. All right. So this is a friendly note from your friendly neighborhood historical society curator. Label the backs of your photos, please.
They're all digital now. You can't.
Don't remind me.
I was at the elementary school.
Yeah. I love this one. This is December of 2020 for the Christmas of 2020. This means a lot.
Big grin going on
Yep.
down there.
Yep.
Is Bob Betzel in the room? No? Bob Betzel was one of the guys that was behind putting this together. And this was during COVID, and everybody was locked inside. And he's like, Anna Holhut here? No, she's on vacation, right? Anyways, they put this together. They're like, you can throw candy, you can do all this. So you guys do it? We're like, yeah. So the deer shows up that we mounted on the front of the truck. And I don't know if you guys, Bobby Betzel's our moderator, he's, I think, the third moderator in the last 100 years or something. But he can be pretty square. He stopped by one night, we're mounting this deer, and we had it in a lot of different positions. He about was crying by the time he left the door, and Anna comes over. Will you guys stop? Don't do this to them. It means a lot, But yeah, he was worked up about it for quite a while.
Wasn't what he had in mind.
Here's another parade in the rain. Again, delayed by COVID, but for the 350th of the town. 351st. Yes, it was the 351st year in celebration of the 350th of the town. All right. So everyone involved certainly has to take a lot of pride in making something so unusual and so memorable. So George and Richie, and then Louise, if you could speak for your brother, you never thought that this would be so much a part of town history, that it would still be here, still be going. And what do you think about that?
I don't follow you.
So the fact that it's still here and still continuing on all these years later, did you ever think that would happen?
Well, no, like I said originally, we built it for the town's 300th, and never thinking, we're going to get a call from this town and that town, and kept going to these parades, and after a while you got tired of going to the parades, really, It was fun. We had an awful lot of fun, but never dreamt that it would be that popular that people wanted us to keep going to their parades, And of course, town's anniversaries only come every so many years. But one of the places we had to go every year, and I think we did it for like 5 years, was Long Meadow. And they were on the 4th of July every year. We had to go to Long Meadow on the 4th of July every year. And of course, everybody had parties, and and we had to go to this parade, but they paid us good money. And that was something that came along later, after Hatfield. It got expensive between transporting it and going to the parades, the beer, the beer and the food and so forth and so on. So I says, we got to start charging, you know. And even the fireworks, we couldn't steal the fireworks from anybody, only the smoke, you know. I had to pay for the fireworks. We got the smoke for free. But it got to be pretty expensive, so, you know, when you start going to Burlington, Vermont, that's a haul. Pay for fuel for the vehicle to go up there and so forth, you know. So we started charging. And to this day, it's got its own checking account. And, yeah.
Well, you're also gonna thank George Zagranic for hauling that thing around all them years with your truck and trailer.
Well, thank you. But, you know, we had to get it there somehow. Eventually, some of the guys got trailers that they pulled behind their pickup, and they'd put it on that and haul it, you know. But it was several years I hauled it with the tractor trailer. And that's how we got it there, you know.
Because it wasn't street legal.
Oh, no, it wasn't. The gas was not, the fuel was not free, you know. It was 5 miles to the gallon probably got with that, you know. But, you know, whose pocket it came out of. But anyways, we did establish its own checking account, and it's got its own to this day, and Jeff's in charge of it. So that's where we stand. I don't know how much money he's got in it, but
Enough to do 2040.
Answer, will it happen again?
I don't see any foreseeable plans to have this on an iPad. The youth today just, you know, I don't know what makes them tick anymore, you know. I worked over to the university, you know, and it's just bizarre. It's, you know, they come in and they're sitting and they're like this. It's like you're sitting across the table, just talk. Conversation. And I don't know what's going on, but, you know, just, it's a different world, and God help us with this next generation.
So, Rich.
But I don't want to cut anybody short, but we're kind of losing daylight.
Yeah, and you got to bring it back.
That crew over there in the back better boogity woogity and get that thing back.
Yep. Yep.
Recognize crew, there are 3, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay, cool. Hand it back to Lord. Hand it back there. So, before we let crew 3 go, can y'all just like raise your hands or something so we can, yeah, there we go. Crew 3. Woo! Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See,
That is the third generation.
third generation. They'll get following. All right, so panel, is there any additional story? I know that the third generation, third crew has to head out and take care of the truck, but George and Richie in particular, is there any other story that you really want to tell, that a question I haven't asked, or something you want to share? Yeah.
We were in the Northampton parade, and we're all in a National Guard, and Buffer Hurley, he was colonel or general, I forget what he was. He was on a reviewing stand. He said, whatever you guys do, we don't want to see any smoke in that parade. We didn't use any smoke until we got in front of a reviewing stand. We let every bomb go that we had.
So I'm just going to plead out there to that group, if anybody has pictures from the 1970 parade and they were taken facing the passenger's side of the vehicle, because despite several months of work by a whole bunch of people prior to my getting involved in this, we still cannot figure out who the fourth guy was in the back. and it's all about weight distribution. So we know there was another person in the back, and nobody seems to be able to figure it out. So we're searching for pictures. Oh, Donnie, we know Donnie was there. Donnie Sadowski is here. He was part of it.
Donnie, do you have anything to say?
So if you have a picture from the passenger side, let us have it, or have a look at it. Thank you.
All right. So thank you all so much. It's really good to hear the stories that go with this truck. And if there's anyone, we're coming to the end. If there's anyone else who's been on the truck or had family on the truck, I'd love to have you recognized as well. We did this at the beginning, but if you have questions, now starts to be the time, or stories for that. I'm sure I've missed some questions. I know I've missed some stories. So if there's stories from other folks, that would be great. Raise your hand and I'll come to you. Otherwise, if we're wrapped up, we can wrap up. All right, but let's recognize our panel first. Kathy.
Hi, I'd like to know, Jeff, you said you were 18 maybe when you first rode on the truck, but I'd like to know what were the ages of the other crews when they first started riding on the truck? How old was George? George and Richie.
Doug, you were 24? And George and Richie, how old were you when this all went down? Oh,
George, otherwise known as Schnaub, probably was about 25 years old.
All right.
I was, let's see, I was born in 41, so 1970 I would have been 29. Richie was a year or two younger than me. Schnabby was,
I think about 25.
he was 25. Chickup was 15 or 16 years older than I was. He was 43. I know he was 15 or 16 years older than I was.
I think they're leaving.
Yeah, they could be quieter, you know. They'd probably get in trouble just bringing it back to the shop, you know.
Do we have other questions from the audience? One from the back. All right, I'm making my way to the back. I'm going to remind you that there's a raffle over here and donations are gratefully accepted. Question from the back here. Yes, please, sir.
Where did the siren come from?
Someplace else. Other questions from the audience? Other stories to share from anybody in the audience? Looks like that's wrapping us up, folks.
What are you going to do with yours?
Thank you again. We really appreciate the panel. Thank you for being such an important part of Hatfield history. Thank you for sharing your ingenuity, your imagination, and your wacky hijinks.
Thank you.